Hey, 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 hey. Happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, interestingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Thursday, June 26th, 2025. This is a live stream 1206. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out it's super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then I will usually take a first look at a game. Maybe I'll unbox a board game, or we'll flip through a role-playing game book, which we will be doing tonight. Every once in a while, I'll kind of pontificate about a topic related to our hobby, or maybe just hang out and engage in some discussion with chat. But tonight, we are actually going to dive on in. We are going to take a look at DeadAirSeasons from the World Anvil Publishing. This is kind of a zombie role-playing game in the vein of The Last of Us, Station 11, so forth. So we're going to be diving on in, taking a peek at that a little bit later on. Now, if you are tuning in because you want to see the first look and you're not familiar with the show, we do tackle the tabletop gaming news first. So it's probably going to be about 35, maybe 40 minutes before we get into that first look. So if you're watching live, just kick back, relax, enjoy yourself. If you're watching after the fact, maybe even on Memorex, keep in mind there are timestamps. They are located in the show notes, and depending on the device you might be watching this on, those timestamps might be right there in the timeline of the video too. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, because this is a live show, there is chat available. Now, you have to be a subscriber to the channel for at least an hour before you can take part in chat. One of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you check that box, you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my very best to respond. First out the gate tonight, jumping the gun in chat, is Sumper Buffo. DB's with us, as is Game Cat, Michael Berry, and maybe the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D, lurking in the shadows as our chat moderator with her glittery band hammer. Could be. So before we get into the festivities for tonight, gotta say, it is possible we might have the stream drop. Because for one, it is really humid. It is miserable in my neck of the woods outside Chicago right now. We've had some rain passing through. Our power's gone out twice in the last 45 minutes. So knock on wood, we get through the show without it going out again. The reality is, if it does go out and the stream ends up dropping, I will probably not come back online, simply because the router that we've got now does take a little bit of time to kind of get going. Actually, I'm not complaining because our speeds are like 500 up, 500 down. So if it takes a couple of minutes or so to boot up, I got no issues with that. But I have noticed when our power's gone off, we're without an internet for like 7 or 8 minutes. So we will see. We will see. Funny enough, I want to say, I think it was Monday. It was really hot, really humid, or I'm sure heat index was over 100 at that point in time. And our power must have gone out about 3 times. And we had a couple of brownouts too, where it was sort of like, wait a second, how is that light still on and those all went out? What the hell's going on? So Willona's Cave is popping on in. Yes, Sarah D is with us tonight, as is Stray Kismet. So welcome. Willona's Cave says 500 up. We have got 500 up. My up down is almost exactly the same, which is why you have noticed for the past, I don't think it's been a year yet, that I actually stream in 1440. Yes. And I've been uploading videos in 4K, even though they're not truly 4K. If you upload a file that's 1080p but you've edited it into 4K, you get a far better bit rate from YouTube. That's why you may have noticed that even my review videos and such lately have been sharper. No new equipment or anything. Everything's still the same. So there is that. All right, let's jump on into the news because I got some cool stuff for us to talk about. First off, we talked about the Labyrinth World Book last night. Well, Labyrinth Adventures has also arrived, and I've got the lowdown from Kobold Press. Tales of adventure across 10,000 worlds. The pathways to your next heroic quest are open with Labyrinth Adventures. The 12 adventures you'll find in this book for characters of levels 1 through 8 are perfect for your Tales of the Valiant campaign. Experience them as separate quests easily brought into your game, or string them together as an epic journey across multiple worlds in search of a shattered portal key. Climb aboard a runaway train hurtling between worlds in search of its lost inventor. Pull off the ultimate heist and snatch an acorn of the world tree from a devil's hall. Battle against a void cult to prevent countless worlds from utter ruin. Enter the halls of a dreaming god, confront powerful void angels, and more. Your path through the labyrinth begins here. Try not to get lost. This 160-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $44.99. If you want to grab just the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $24.99. So, must say, there are conflicting page counts. I will believe what I saw over on Kobold Press because it says it's 160 on Kobold Press. Over on DriveThruRPG, I want to say, I think it's indicating it's 221 pages. And yes, I understand sometimes PDFs have more pages because they'll have like handouts and stuff that maybe you wouldn't get in the actual book, or maybe they're reproduced later on in the PDF. Don't know. I gotta be honest, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's 160 pages. I really do. And of course, I will take a stab in the dark that our friends over at Kobold Press will be sending along review copies of both of these books when they become available. Willona's Cave said, even if you're doing a 720 video and you export it to 1080, that works. Yeah, of course, but there are actually different bit rates. I'm not going to get like too inside baseball here, but the difference, if I upload a video in 1080, 1080p, it will not get the same bit rate playback from YouTube as a 1080p video that I've upscaled to 4K. even though it's not 4K. So there is that. You know, I have 4K cameras. Camera I'm looking at right here, the overhead camera, they both shoot 4K. You just can't stream 4K at over 30 frames per second, which I do 60. And I don't think it's that big a trade-off. Not for this. You know, if I were like traveling the world and, you know, sharing beautiful scenery and stuff, yeah, it'd be a big deal. But no, not this. W Forge is with us, as is Captain Finity, Time Police, and Sharon O'Donnell is jumping on in TBS. Could they play as David Bowie? Yeah, as long as Jennifer Connelly comes by. W Forge says, imagine if Jeff said 1080i. Is there even 1080 interlaced anymore? I don't know. I don't think there is. Could be. Who knows? It could be something that's like the UK. You know, other countries. I don't know. I'm not that brainy. Pete Strakulich is also popping on in. Moonrise Long. Neon Rain is arriving in July for the Cypher system. And I've got the scoop from Monte Cook Games. Take your Cypher system game into the cyberpunk realm with Neon Rain. Install cybernetic upgrades. Use virtual reality to hack into corpo mainframes and dodge guardians and traps built by hostile AIs. Smuggle designer drugs or tweak with your own body chemistry and risk addiction and death. Chase and be chased at breakneck speeds on futuristic highways under a night sky. Inside this book, you'll find advice and tools for building your own intense cyberpunk setting, including optional rules such as hacking and ultimate damage, creatures, ciphers, and artifacts, new foci, descriptors, and other options. Build a furious solo who packs chromed heat, an Ingram tech who explores cyberspace, or an addicted hotshot who has a custom drone. Steely and mysterious creatures and NPCs ready to be dropped into any encounter. Come across Android Police Officer Tyndall, or send the ruthless assassin Sophie Cantos after your rivals. Visit Theodora Fry in the black market if you dare, or hire Balaga, the fastest driver in town, for your next heist. It includes a ready-to-play setting, which features all the iconic cyberpunk elements you'd expect, and possibly some you won't. Cybernetics, megacorporations, street gangs, a weird internet, and ready-to-use encounter locations. There's even 2 complete adventures usable in Edge City, or your own setting, 17th Floor and Needle in the Haystack. Neon Rain is a setting and supplement for the Cypher system, and it does require the Cypher system rulebook in order to play. This 224-page hardcover is going to carry an MSRP of $49.99 when it lands in stores on July 23rd. The PDF is not available yet. It is not available to order either from Monte Cook Games. I am going to guess the PDF should be available on that same date. It's usually how Monte Cook Games operates. And I'll say it's probably going to be about $24.99. So Cyberpunk comes to the Cypher system. Well, it's got its work cut out for it. You folks know I am a big fan of Artel Saurian Games' Cyberpunk Red. I think it's pretty much the go-to for cyberpunk adventures. No, we'll see. Hey, you know what? Maybe we'll get an opportunity to take a peek at it. Because if you missed last night's show, I mentioned I have 3 books that Monte Cook Games sent me. In fact, next Tuesday, we're going to take a peek at the first one. Sadly, for some strange reason, the Cypher System core rulebook was supposed to be in the package. It wasn't. And I want to say 2 of the books do require the rulebook in order to use. So I'm hoping, I have reached out, I have let Monte Cook Games know. And I am hoping that we do get that core rule book, so I can actually, because how can I review a supplemental expansion without the core rule book? Kind of difficult, be kind of hard. All right, so let's see. Kevin King is popped on in, as has Robert Santon. Who else we got? Dan Lowe. Dan Lowe is popping on in. For some reason, that name's not ringing a bell. So my apologies, Dan, if you've been here before, but if this is your first time visiting live in chat, welcome aboard. But Dan says they still have a Toshiba display that is 1080i, can still super sample other resolutions using your GPU. It has old hookups like, wow, S-Video. That's going back a little bit. I don't think most flat screen TVs these days, well, they're all flat screen. Let's be real. I don't think they have S-Video hookups, but that's kind of cool. Sometimes, the older stuff, as long as it's still working, it's from a company that would build stuff to last. Sometimes it's kind of cool to have those. Very nice. Very, very nice. Let's see. Kevin King's with us. I don't think I said hello to Kevin. So welcome. W Forge says, looks like they may be waiting for a future The Gaming Gang role-playing game sale. For Cypher system stuff? Kevin King says, or a bundle. Kevin King also says, I'm sure this book could be mined for gaming ideas for Cyberpunk and vice versa, I'm sure. And of course, yes, there are other Cyberpunk role-playing games. It's not only Cyberpunk Red, but it is the venerable Cyberpunk role-playing game. And it's pretty much most people's go-tos for Cyberpunk genre adventuring. All right, so let's talk about saving you some money, because there is another just absolutely amazing deal over on Fanatical, and it features GDW's Twilight 2000, the first and second editions. Now I've got the deets on the deal. It's time to lock and load as you battle for survival and find a way to get home in the nightmare of a world left in the wreckage of a nuclear war. Fanatical is proud to bring you a staggering collection of 51 RPG books from the Twilight 2000 series, one of the most successful military-focused tabletop role-playing games ever. Test your skills in a bitter fight for survival in a post-World War III Europe. Tier 1 gives you a tasty glimpse into the series with 4 books to kick off your campaigns. Get to grips with the first edition core set, the complete role-playing system with rules covering character generation, living off the land, encounters, combat, skill improvement, vehicles, and much more. Tier 2 unlocks 18 more books to expand your game. This tier is packed with adventure modules, guidebooks, source books, and more. Dive into books such as Allegheny Uprising and search for a pre-war government supply stockpile in the Allegheny Mountains of Pennsylvania. Can you catch the last ship home with Going Home, an adventure where players are presented with the challenge of getting across Poland and north-central Germany? Tier 3 drops the bomb. No pun intended there, right? With the full 51 books available in this incredible offer, you'll get your hands on the second edition core set, where the war has raged for years. The high-tech ammo is almost gone, and high-tech equipment is failing piece by piece with no spares to fix it. The front lines are held by a few grim, desperate soldiers, and your last order sets you free. Master vehicle combat with the last battle and speed up vehicle and troop combat resolution while preserving the detail and flavor. The last battle can be played as a complete standalone board game. Embark on daring raids, audacious rescue missions, and more in Merc 2000. Why fight for a country when someone is willing to pay more? This bundle has everything a rookie or seasoned veteran will need to experience, all that Twilight 2000 has to offer. What are you waiting for, soldier? Grab this bundle and get fighting. All products within this promotion will be redeemed through your official DriveThruRPG account. Now, this is another bundle that's going to run for a long time. For some reason, I have a little cat hair or something. Just keeps floating around my nose. It's like, get off me, get off me. Anyway, you got a good amount of time to take advantage of this because these savings will run through August 19th. Now, you can jump on board for $2.99. And that's going to get you, I want to say, I think it was a box set. If I remember correctly, almost positive that Twilight 2000 first edition started off with a box set. And you also get, I think it's Free City of Krakow. And then I think it's also the U.S. Army Vehicle Guide. So there's 4 PDFs kind of get you started. But I will say you can get all 51 PDFs, which looks to be the entire first edition and second edition runs from Game Designer Workshop for $14.99. $14.99. That is a smoking deal, I have got to say. Pretty nice. J-Man is with us tonight. Says, I have all the original books from the 80s. Great collection. I had some of the early stuff. I picked it up when it first came out. I had Free City of Krakow. I had the next one that came out. I don't remember having the Pirates book. But my pal Scott Weigel, who on occasion pops into chat with us, he had Twilight 2000. I seem to remember him running it a little bit. I never ran it. I did not run it at all. So yes, Captain Infinity, Krakow. It's set in Poland? Yes. The core setting, the default setting for Twilight 2000 starts off in Poland. So not Germany, which you would have thought. And speaking of Twilight 2000, I wonder what's going on with Free League Publishing. I like what they did with Twilight 2000 because now I'll be the first to point out, I had never seen second edition Twilight 2000. So I don't know mechanically if it was cleaned up or not. But I will say that mechanically first edition Twilight 2000 is kind of a mess, which is sort of surprising because I could have swore Frank Chadwick was the lead designer on it. I might be wrong on that, but yeah, Twilight 2000, pretty good, pretty interesting setting. Although the reality is, if we had a nuclear war, that'd be it. It would be, I mean, we have to be talking about some just tactical nukes were used on the battlefield, but that's not supposed to be what happens. We're supposed to have a nuclear exchange where both the Soviet Union at that time and, of course, the United States and other NATO countries have been hit with thermonuclear weapons. Anyway, well, it wouldn't be much of a role-playing game if it was like, okay, the birds are flying. Well, that's it. 30-minute session. That was it. We're done. W. Ford says, second edition, they think, tried to be part of the GDW house systems that started with Mega Traveler and the New Era. Okay. It's been a long time since I peeked at. I owned Mega Traveler, and I did have Traveler, the New Era, too. Yeah, if I remember correctly, I don't think it was like our regular Traveler, our 2 6-sided dice, kind of thing. I think it was a little bit more than that. Captain Infinity says, how about a nice game of tic-tac-toe? You know what? I never liked that movie. I don't know. Never cared for that movie. I always thought it was a little too silly. What can I tell you? What can I tell you? Michael Berry says, word is Free League's working on a new box set, Operation Reset, Warsaw, Stockholm. Yes, but that's been like in the pipeline for like 2 years. Because isn't it been a couple of years? Yeah, I think it's been 2 years since we saw the last Twilight 2000 releases in the little boxes, the like 1-inch boxes. So then they're likely moving to update the old American-based adventures and settings. Well, that's cool. I'm glad to hear that. It's just, I think for the most part, Twilight 2000, even though it is a great love of Tomas Harenstam from Free League Publishing, I think it's kind of on their back burner right now. What with the new Alien and the new Coriolis. So, oh well, what can I tell you? What can I tell you? All right. So, you want to save even more money? Well, Bundle of Holdings offering the His Majesty the Worm bundle. And I've got the skinny on the savings. Adventurer. This His Majesty the Worm bundle presents, well, you guessed it, His Majesty the Worm, a mega dungeon crawling fantasy role-playing game from, hey, wait a second, why is that popping up? I tell you. Hold on. Jeez. I hate when one of the old slides squeaks in there. It is a mega dungeon crawling fantasy role-playing game from Josh McCrowell at Up Comus. The underworld blasphemes the earth under the city at the center of the world. You and your guildmates have personal quests that compel them to step through the gate into those lightless depths. If you fulfill your quests, you can finally retire. Until then, in the cycle of descent, exploration, return, restock, rest, all that protects you is your bonds of loyalty, rivalry, mentorship, and even love. Play them to the hilt, and you might survive. 8 years in the making, His Majesty the Worm reimagines the traditional dungeon crawl in a highly playable structure that spotlights the necessities of underworld exploration. Food, light, time, and the allies who keep you alive. Use tarot cards to generate the city, underworld, characters, and monsters, and to run an action-packed challenge system that ensures all players have interesting choices throughout every round of combat. With this PDF rulebook, you'll see why the Exalted Funeral, His Majesty the Worm hardcover, sold out in 3 hours. Pay just $14.95 for the Worm Collection, which is actually not what they're calling this bundle. It's His Majesty the Worm bundle, so I don't know why they're saying the Worm Collection, because this is the only collection on offer. It has a retail value of $58, and it includes the RM-free PDFs of the complete 411-page His Majesty the Worm rulebook, along with the cozy halfling village game, Under Hill by Water, and its travel expansion, Walking Holiday. So the reality is you're getting two role-playing games in this. Not too shabby. Do want to mention these savings will run through July 9th. So kind of a quick deal here. It's not a quick deal, which are usually like a week, but it's not as long as some of them that run about a month. But hey, not too shabby. Not too shabby. Sean O'Donnell asks, how many burners does Free League have? I don't know, to be honest. Semper Buffo says Free League's late on the Blade Runner role-playing game. The Replicant Kickstarter, right? Isn't that it? Isn't that what they're behind on? I thought it was another box set. I remember sharing news of it. Gotta say, after my friend Boel moved on, I don't know if she left or they just let her go. She had been their PR person for quite a while, and she was great. Always kept me in the loop on what was going on, what was coming down the pike. She'd reach out and say, hey, this is what's coming out. What do you want me to send you? Stuff like that. And then she would just send it. She didn't even bother asking me anymore. Nowadays, Free League Publishing uses an outside marketing company, and it's kind of hit or miss. I don't know. I do not know. That's why you don't get a ton of Free League Publishing news on the dispatch anymore. Well, then again, I mean, it's not like they're cranking out news pieces all the time either. So, but yes, Semper Buffo says their lateness on the Blade Runner role-playing game is why they pulled out from the Alien Kickstarter. And Kevin King says, yeah, it's the supplement for where you can play a replicant. Well, I also got to say, we've talked about this a little bit. Our golden age looks like it's never fulfilling, which is like, okay. See, back at Kickstarter, because I usually stay away from Kickstarters. Back at Kickstarter, and that's what happens. It's like, yep, sure enough, Jeff. Going back, which of course somebody had actually donated the funds because they wanted to see me do a review of it. And it was already supposed to be out, and I don't even think the artwork is finished. Mark Hawkswell says, well, they just wrapped up that Kickstarter for a couple of Dragonbane books. Yes, I shared news about that. Sharon L says, stuff being late with the current issues doesn't shock them too much. They don't really particularly mind. As far as our golden age, the lateness is not because of tariffs or anything like that. Supply chain problems, none of that. It is, as far as I can tell, self-inflicted. So, yeah, it's one person, right? Luka Rajek, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm just disappointed. I'm not mad. I'm just like, All right, so let's talk about our final news piece. Because the second edition of the Laundry role-playing game is now out in PDF from Cubicle 7 Games. Now I've got the lowdown on the Operative's Handbook. Write code, work magic, save the world. The world of Charles Stross's book series, The Laundry Files, returns to the game table with this new edition of the popular The Laundry role-playing game. The Laundry role-playing game, Operative's Handbook, provides players with all of the essentials to send their laundry agents into the most deadly corners of the city and dangerous realities way above their pay grade. Facing mind-melting terror, high-tech espionage, occult mathematics, not mechanics, and plenty of paperwork. A laundry agent's work is never done. Even death is no excuse for not clocking in. Once you've signed, redacted, and filled in the necessary paperwork, you will be authorized to prevent unscheduled reality excursions from other universes, experience thrilling training courses to ensure you complete your missions on time and on budget. Use restricted equipment such as the Hand of Glory, the Basilisk Gun, and the essential Necronomophone. Venture to exciting locations like Amsterdam, St. Martin, Dunwich, and Milton Keynes. Investigate irresponsible applications of advanced mathematics that threaten the existence of our reality. And if you've correctly filled in your R70 variance in working hours form, you'll actually get paid to save the world. Right now, you can grab this 192-page PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $32.99. As of this moment, There is no pre-order for the physical books. I would think we should see that soon enough. Kind of cool. Very nice. I reviewed the original The Laundry role-playing game, and I gave it, I think, it's going way back. I think I gave it around maybe a 7, 6.5, 7. So it was, now I'm going back. I'm trying to remember. It was built on Call of Cthulhu, I think. So it was percentile based, because at that point in time, we also had the, what was Cthulhu Britannica? Wasn't that what they called it? Cubicle 7 had the supplements, the UK supplements for Call of Cthulhu, for like 6th edition Call of Cthulhu. And they had a few releases for the Laundry. I only reviewed the core rule book. So W4 asks, was Cubicle 7 Games the publisher of the earlier edition? Yes. Yes, it was. In fact, it was one of the earlier reviews I did for a Cubicle 7 game. W4 says, now they got to decide between the Laundry and the Triangle Agency. Yeah, you know, I don't know where to point you, to be honest, because for one, I have not seen, outside of sharing the news piece when Cubicle 7 was kickstarting this, and there are 4 books. So you will see news of the other 3 next week. There's an operative's handbook. There's a game master's handbook. There is an adventure book that I want to say actually revises some previously published adventures. And then there's another book that seems to be a little bit of kind of a setting guide with adventures. But I think those adventures is new. Anyway, Chris D is with us in chat. So welcome aboard. So very cool. I think maybe we'll get an opportunity to take a peek at this. The Laundry, when it comes out. Normally with Cubicle 7 games, what we do see happen is the PDFs come out about 6 months, or even sometimes a little more, before the physical books come out. And I know there are people who are out there who are like, they get upset because it's sort of like, well, they're not, people who are buying the PDF aren't really like play testers, but they are a little quality control. But the reality I look at it as is it allows the opportunity for Cubicle 7 to clean up some of its typos and grammatical errors and things that might get screwed up. Now, it's not always taken care of, because we do see printed books from Cubicle 7, which will have a few like misprints or something like that. But this helps prevent a bunch of them. To me, I don't see the big deal, because it's not as if you get the PDF and it's like, well, that's the version of the PDF you get. You won't get the final version. It's like, okay. All right, I'm going to jump back into chat a little, because quite a bit was going on here. So there's some discussion about Dolmenwood. I'm sharing news of that next week. I got to say, I have reached out. I mentioned this when we were talking about Weird Heroes of Public Access. I have reached out to Exalted Funeral, and I asked for a review copy of Weird Heroes of Public Access. Another book, which is kind of a collection of, I think it's OSR ideas. And then I think it's from a blog. It's a collection. And then, of course, I mentioned, hey, I know my audience would be very interested in Dolmenwood when it comes out. So keep me in the loop on that. Because I guess, Exalted Funeral has enjoyed, they've appreciated the coverage I have provided for what they have sent along. DB says the Kickstarter that's chapping them is Blood and Doom. I'm not even sure what that is. Their marketing was very deceptive, made the game look far more developed than it was, had a lot of art, all very polished. Mark Hawkswell says they are also hyped for Dolmenwood. It is out in PDF. I know that. I think it's 3 books. So I do know that. I want to say, I think what people really are interested to find out is how different is it from Old School Essentials? Because, okay, so once again, it's not like I have the ear of Gavin Norman over at Necrotic Gnome. It's not like I have a can with a string and he's got the other one. Yeah, Jeff, we're doing this. I thought originally, wasn't Dolmenwood going to be a setting? It was just going to be kind of a little bit of a, I don't want to say fairy tale setting, but like if you're familiar with the adventure Winter's Daughter, it does kind of have a little bit of a fairy tale vibe to the proceedings. And I thought that's what Dolmenwood was going to be. And then all of a sudden it was like, now it's a full-fledged system setting. So I'm like, okay. All right. I don't know. So DB says that Blood and Doom is a year late, but nothing but quick start rules have been released, and they are not as interesting as the game they were marketing. That sucks. That's not cool. W4 Jazz, hey Jeff, have you ever covered Ulysses Spiel, the current Torg publishers? Yes. Yes, I did. In fact, we're going back a little bit. I was kind of their American reviewer. But, okay, so I don't know everything behind the scenes. There are some things that, I can't tell you, right? I wouldn't feel comfortable revealing. But Ulysses Spiel, this is right when Torg Eternity had just come out. And they had the core book, the bennies that they've got. I forget what they call. I think they're fate tokens, if I remember correctly. The deck of cards, and it was all the day one stuff. So all the day one adventures and setting book and stuff like that. So that was all that was out yet, and it was all fairly new. And I was covering C2E2. We were going to C2E2, and this person reached out to me to ask me if I wanted to do an interview about Ulysses Spiel at C2E2. And then they actually took my brother and I and the kids out for lunch. So Ulysses Spiel was going to make a big push into the US with the Dark Eye and Torg Eternity. I think those were the only two, because I don't think they had released, well, I know they hadn't released the last edition of Fading Suns. So Tessie Trekkie says, I bought some Torg books off of Jeff. Yes. Yeah, I don't have any of the Torg Eternity stuff left. So anyway, so sharing videos, doing reviews. I went and did an interview at Gen Con with the guy who's the American face of Ulysses Spiel. And sadly, he had a stroke. And that kind of threw everything, kind of into a jumble. And then suddenly Ulysses Spiel was like, okay, well, we're not going to bother with the US anymore. They weren't going to focus on the United States anymore. So it was like, I guess they just didn't get what they were looking for. I don't know. Tessie Truckee said they just got their copy of Coriolis Great Dark. Nice. Very, very cool. I like Torg. I thought Torg was pretty cool. I don't like having the cards. I am not a fan of role-playing games where they throw some extra aspect at you have to buy. Just not super keen on that. If you want to use dice, great, use dice. If you want to use cards, then use cards. Use both of them. Not a huge fan. But the premise of Torg is cool. Other thing about Torg that's is the meta plot. And that was the undoing of the original Torg from West End Games. Was they had this meta plot, people got like pulled into it, and then of course it started going into this kind of direction. Like people will talk about Dragonlance for Dungeons and Dragons. So Dragonlance, the adventures for Dragonlance, your player characters were kind of taking a back seat to the events that were taking place in the books. And that's kind of what happened with the original Torg. Was there were all these events going on, but the player characters were kind of just peripheral to that. So I can understand, being like, W4 says, well, there goes Jeff's review of Daggerheart. We already got our Daggerheart review up. Sammy did it. Sammy reviewed the PDF. So Sedated Man is with us tonight. Says, what about Daggerheart? I haven't looked at it, but doesn't it use cards? It uses cards, but to my knowledge, I could be wrong, because remember, I haven't seen it, right? I'll tell you what, let's wrap up the news, and then we can do a little random musing here. Anyway, so that was it for the news tonight. Of course, I had mentioned DriveThruRPG. Don't forget the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to go visit DriveThruRPG, Storytellers Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, any of the One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of that sale. And all of that really does add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Of course, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always make a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. And big thank you to both Spencer Lee and Agile Monk for 2 very, very generous one-time donations that they made very, very recently. Of course, every show I like to give a shout out to our Patreon members. We do have our $5 tier members: Gustavo Cavallo, Jason Lawman, Caval, Kevin R. Smith, Marius Smith, Max Apocalypse, Sean O'Donnell, and Talzek. Our $10 members: Dan Webb, Game Cat, Pete Strakolich, RPG Munch, Tessie Trekkie, and Tier 2 DM, as well as our $25 tier members, Agile Monk and the Madman. Thank you, all of you, for supporting the Gaming Gang. It is much appreciated. Okay, now we can go back to We can go back to the random musings now. So yes, well, Sean O'Donnell actually answered the question for me. Game Masters Hobbies with us. Matt Roast is also with us in chat. Looks like we've got a pretty solid chat rocking and rolling tonight. I didn't think we'd have I was going to say a big crowd, but we never have a big crowd. We have a loyal crowd, just maybe not a big crowd. But yeah, there's actually more people in chat than I was expecting. So that is nice. So Sean O'Donnell points out you don't need the cards in Daggerheart. They just make life easier. It was my understanding that the cards represent aspects of the characters or like spells. Like you see a lot of role-playing games, especially fantasy role-playing games, they will have spell cards. So if your players are magic users and they have certain spells, well, then they have a card in front of them that's got all that information so that you as the game master don't have to keep it rattling around in your head. They've got it there. So I thought that's kind of how Daggerheart works, where like if you have a special ability or a feat or whatever. Sedated Man asks, are the contents of the cards also in the books? Yes, that's what I heard. That is my understanding. And if you buy the core physical Daggerheart release, it has the cards. So it's not, oh, you can buy the core rule book and then the cards are a separate purchase. The cards are part of the basic physical purchase. Sean Dowell says, you get more as you level, you can change them out. So it really helps to have what amounts to your whole character modular like that. Sean Dowell said they printed theirs out. Yep. So if you're curious, if I remember correctly, I think Sammy gave Daggerheart an 8.5 out of 10, which there was a reason why. No, well, number one, I wasn't going to review Daggerheart because I wasn't going to buy it. Not that I got anything against it, but I have no relationship whatsoever with Darrington Press. So I knew they weren't going to send me a review copy. And I think it's $70 if I remember correctly. And I figured it would be more up Sammy's alley than mine. So as an example, Sammy in her review said, W. Forge says, see, she did. Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's an 8.5. My memory is halfway decent as far as games go. Because you got to remember, just think, I've been doing this. I'm in my 15th year. Imagine how many games I have taken a peek at. It's like, whoa. So anyway, she talked about the artwork and how much she liked the artwork. And me, on the other hand, I have seen some of the artwork from Daggerheart that I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I like that. And then I've seen other artwork that I'm kind of like, looks kind of sappy. So I can tell you that Dungeons and Dyslexia, I guess, hated it. We talked about it in the interview I did with him that he posted it like a week or so ago. And I thought he had liked it because he was kind of, what he was talking about it was like, I thought he enjoyed it. And then he's like, no, he goes, I said, I want my money back. I was like, wow, okay. Game Master's Hobby says, Jeff, I'm thinking about getting the Tales of the Valiant starter set. Just waiting to hear your thoughts about that one. You're going to be waiting a long time. This is actually, and it's funny because I'm actually using the coffee cup from them today and from Steamforged Games. the reason why I'm no longer covering Steamforged Games is because I asked them for a copy of the Tales of the Valiant starter set because it's not from Kobold Press. It is from Steamforged Games. And they said no. And I was like, really? Uh-oh. We just had a little flicker with the power. Fingers crossed. It'd be so funny if all of a sudden, well, I don't want to say funny. It'd be weird if suddenly the power went and it's like, okay, so tonight's episode, we were supposed to be taking a look at DeadAirSeasons, and all it is the news and random musings. So Sedated Man says, I've been in and out of your channel long enough to know you're a big fan of Delta Green. Yeah, I do like Delta Green. It is not my go-to horror game, but of course that's Call of Cthulhu. What is my preferred favorite fantasy system, if any? There would be a lot that are in the mix. Now that for whatever reason, Troll Lord Games wants nothing to do with me, I guess, I am not going to recommend their game. But I like Dragonbane. I think Dragonbane's pretty cool. It's easy to wrap your head around. I wish there was more out for it. And yes, we know, we're talking about how Free League Publishing just wrapped up a Kickstarter for 2 new volumes for it. One I think is Adventures and stuff. I like OSE, Advanced Fantasy. I like that if you're looking to do OSR. The knock against Old School Essentials is that you have to have some familiarity with role-playing games to really get the most out of it, because there is no, oh, well, this is how you do these things. So that's kind of its knock. But Shadow Dark I do like Shadow Dark. It would not be my go-to as far as a fantasy role-playing game. I don't know. There's so many out there that are really good. It all depends on what you're looking to achieve. Are you looking for a story? Do you want at the end of your session or at the end of multiple sessions, do you want to have a coherent story that you're like, wow, we have this epic tale? Or do you want to experience fantasy role-playing games like they were back in the 70s and 80s? Are you looking for that kind of, it's all new, it's all fresh, kind of wow sort of thing? Are you looking for a fantasy role-playing game that's got a lot of content for it? Like Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I like Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Myself personally, I would probably not run it unless I were running it like on Foundry, where all of that 3-action economy and feats and all that could be offloaded to Foundry as opposed to the players and the game masters. Yes, I was just about to say Tales of Argosa. Funny enough, we were doing that series where we were creating a fantasy role-playing game. Tales of Argosa actually incorporates a good number of things that I wanted to include in our game. So right there, I was like, whoa, pretty nice, pretty nice. DB's talking about Hyperborea. I like Hyperborea. I like the subclasses. I thought those were cool. I don't like the combat matrices. Not a big fan. Swords and Wizardry. Yes, Swords and Wizardry is good. Like I said, there's just lots of stuff out there. Lots of stuff. Okay, so somebody just asked in chat that Tessie Trekkie said, anyone else lost the stream? Okay, well, I guess not, because DB just responded to something I just said. Yeah, see that? Now that threw a little fear in me because I was like, wait a second. Because remember, I said we had that little flicker there, and I was like, oh, shit. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. We love tabletop role-playing games is with us. Mark Edwards is also hanging with the gang. Jack Hanks has popped on in as well. Welcome, everybody. Welcome aboard. Max Apocalypse says, I love Savage Worlds, and I wish it had more dedicated fantasy setting that wasn't a port of Pathfinder or whatever. Yeah, I liked the big Pathfinder box. I liked that quite a bit. It felt fantasy. It did not feel Pathfinder. Because Pathfinder is, now granted, if you're looking for lore, if you're looking for adventures, whoa, you can do no wrong with Pathfinder 2nd Edition because there's something for everybody. But it's also one of the more complex role-playing games out there. And it's not necessarily mechanically complex. It's that it's just got so many options to it that sometimes people can feel overwhelmed. But yeah, if you're looking for, like, say, let's go with the sword and sorcery kind of vibe, right? Maybe you want a little Fafhrd and Grey Mouser, which I'm a huge fan. If you follow the Gaming Gang, you know I'm massive Fritz Leiber fan. And yes, I know some of the adventures are a little not exactly PC anymore, but still, if you're looking for something like that, then yes, I would say Tales of Argosa is something you really need to take a peek at. Dungeon Crawl Classics, there you go. Another one that I really like. Drawback to Dungeon Crawl Classics is also one of its biggest selling points, and it is the magic system. Because even the lowliest of magic users can pull off some incredibly powerful magic. Of course, it'll probably end up killing them, but still, right? They're not just there like, no, I cast light. Ooh, I could open a locked door. But it can't be magically locked. But then you have all of these pages of tables for all of the different spells. So that can be overwhelming for some people as well. J-Man says, agreed, Jeff. It's like it has too many business rules for a role-playing game. And I know a lot of people have called it Math Finder. There isn't more math in Pathfinder than there is in Dungeons and Dragons. There really isn't. And if that math throws people off, then I don't know what to tell you because it's pretty basic math. If you can't add and subtract, don't know if I could help you. So Pete Strakowitz said they ran an epic game of Dungeon Crawl Classics. All right. So there we go. Quite a bit of random musing tonight. We are jumping on into Dead Air Seasons. I know I said it'd be about 35, 40 minutes. It's actually been over an hour. So if you've been hanging out live waiting for it, just how the show works. Just how the show works. It's live. What can I tell you? So we're going to be diving on into Dead Air Seasons from the World Anvil Publishing. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
If going to a movie show is right for you, if candy eating and popcorn chewing's right for you, If what you do is right for you, no matter what the others do, then RC Cola is right for you. It's not too heavy, not too sweet, it's right for you. RC Cola. RC's just an easy going right for you. RC Cola. If what you do is right for you, no matter what the others do, then RC Cola is right for you. It's right for you. It's right for you.
Hey, kid, have a carrot.
A carrot?
Carrot sticks are, yes, indeed. They are delicious. If you must eat in between meals, why not eat nutritious dishes? Like fill a bowl with ice cubes, then add raw cauliflower. Stuff celery with cheese and let it chill for half an hour. Add carrot sticks and olives and any other knickknacks. Then keep this box.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Now, a cigarette that's low in tar and nicotine, high in menthol flavor. New Montclair. Just enough in every puff makes every puff a pleasure. How much is just enough? Just enough menthol to please your taste. Montclair's new charcoal menthol filter does it. Charcoal granules that are both activated and mentholated release just enough menthol to freshen every puff. So every puff tastes as good as the first puff. What's so modern about Montclair? The answer is in Montclair's modern menthol flavor. Yet Montclair is surprisingly low in tar and nicotine. But the flavor's still there when you smoke Montclair. Just enough in every puff makes every puff a pleasure. Smoke Montclair. New from the American Tobacco Company.
You won't find anyone who doesn't drink Wilkins instant coffee.
Oh, look high and low.
How low can you get?
Why'd you set up the break?
Because I can use you. This machine utilizes X-ray, ultraviolet, and alpha, beta, and omega rays.
This man is a killer.
Oh!
Mad with dreams of fantastic power.
We're conducting experiments requiring fissionable materials.
That's atom bomb stuff. The government has that locked up tighter than Fort Knox.
You'll work for us faithfully, or you'll be turned over to the authorities. I understand there's a reward of $5,000 on your head.
No money is safe. No man is safe. Nothing stops the amazing transparent man. Into army-guarded secret government vaults he goes, stealing confidential nuclear material, holding in his unseen hands the key to world power. But the amazing transparent man wants first vengeance.
If I choke you hard enough, you'll bring me back.
You've lost the urge to experiment.
time you touch me, I go out of my mind. Let me die. Let me die.
Her brain kept alive by experimental science, by a man whose abnormal passions inspired him to try the impossible.
I brought her back. She'll live and I'll get her another body.
So what of her soul? How can you make of her an experiment of horror?
His mad ambitions and desires threaten every woman possessing an attractive body. Girls whose measurements make them beauty contest participants. Professional figure models such as this. All are prey to his distorted desires.
What's locked behind that door?
Horror. No normal mind can imagine. Something even more terrible than you.
Horror has its ultimate, and I'm that.
Behind that door is the sum total of Dr. Cortland's mistakes.
He intends to kill somebody. To rob them of their body. We've got to stop him.
Look at that. You got a double feature of trailers. Plus, I guess when the power went out earlier before I started the stream, did not save the new intermission I had added into the program. So that's why I kind of changed that up midstream so you weren't watching the same intermission as last night. So some discussion of those movies. And who was it? Pete Strakovich said they just had an opportunity to watch Kolchak the Night Stalker. Very nice. Very cool. Very cool. Mateo's with us in chat, says, just a routine head transplant. Nothing to see here. Move it along, everybody. Move it along. Nothing to see. DB says, I wish I could go to that double feature. Stray Kismet says, nothing more mad than Dr. Wilkins. All right, everybody. So after about an hour and 15 minutes, we're going to dive on in and take a first look at Dead Airs. That bit my lip. Damn it. Yep, just delaying it even more. We're going to be taking a look at DeadAirSeasons from the World Anvil Publishing. This 216-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $66. You can grab the PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $24.99. I do believe this is an Italian role-playing game originally. So this is going to be in English, of course. So a couple of things to mention before we jump on in. First of all, the fine folks over at the World Anvil Publishing were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the gaming gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this first look with you. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book, but I do want to get a good feel for what we're going to find inside. So let's take a look at the back here. Humanity cautiously navigates a world reshaped by the days of the Blight, a pandemic that led to civilization's collapse. Survivors, now strangers in their own land, struggle to forge a living on the edges of a reborn ecosystem, battling both monstrous creatures and human adversaries. Their greatest fear is becoming hosts to the Blight. Despite the devastation, the Blight's aftermath has brought a natural resurgence. Cities are reclaimed by nature, water runs clean, and the seas are alive. However, this new abundance seems not for humans, but for new life forms attuned to the Blight. Survivors amidst this unintended paradise must navigate a reality where they are no longer the favored inhabitants. DeadAirSeasons crafts a rich tapestry of world-building opportunities that encompass both character communities and their evolving habitats. An innovative crisis system underscores the cycle of seasons, reflecting the relentless progression of the blight and the consequential transformation of the world by the player's collective narrative. If you love works such as The Last of Us series, Station 11, The Road, Sweet Tooth, Children of Men, Annihilation, or The Girl with All the Gifts, DeadAirSeasons is the game for you. All right. I got to say, I really liked Station 11. I cried. I cried during that when we finally see how everything connects. Yeah. I don't mind admitting it. If you haven't seen Station 11, you really should see it. It's really good. All right, so first thing we're going to do, let's take a look at the credits page. Let's give credit where credit is due. So as far as our table of contents, what do we got? We've got an introduction. We've got the world of the Blight, the game system, the Blight, community creation, community gifts, creating characters. Oh, that's pretty late in the book. Character gifts, crises and seasons of the Blight, the region, perils of the Blight, opponents and threats, a game master section running the game, and we have some appendices. Welcome, lucky survivors, to the dangerous and fascinating world of Dead Air. The book you are holding is an evolution of the World of Anvil Publishing's previous setting, Dead Air, Days of the Blight. In Dead Air, Days of the Blight, humanity suddenly found itself threatened by an encroaching plague known as the Blight, as entire cities and regions were devoured in a matter of weeks, destroying all traces of civil society. Those few who survived were left to battle day in and day out. In DeadAirSeasons, the focus of the story shifts away from individual characters to the community to which they belong. This community, one that players will create together, will change and grow as a result of their choices. Will their community grow stronger as they overcome the numerous crises they will encounter, or will it splinter apart in the quest for protection from a merciless and increasingly foreign world? Captain Infinity says, Jeff's hands are so huge. Oh, it's the book. Max Apocalypse says, thank God they chose The Blight for the name. Too many games, video games to be fair, seem to choose the Taint for stuff like that. Yeah. Pete Recklich says they'd like to custom build a small A5 bookshelf to easily move around their recliner. So we've got the themes of DeadAirSeasons. People stories. Relationships are the core of the kinds of narratives that exist between various communities of people, between a mentor and their students, or between a parent and child. Think of works like The Last of Us Part 1 and 2, Station 11, and The Road. A shaken world. As governments and nations fall apart, people seek safety in communities. All the interactions in this scenario take place in a hostile environment that makes it difficult for people to trust one another. Dystopian post-apocalyptic suggestions include movies like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Mad Max Fury Road, 28 Days Later, and 28 Weeks Later. I don't know. Mad Max Fury Road just doesn't feel like it would jive with this. Also, Nature Fights Back. The world is approaching a crossroads where humanity can either choose to make a difference or continue on their current self-serving path and have the choice made for them. Either way, for better or for worse, in devastation or reclamation, the results will be a new balance in which humanity plays a very different role. In terms of fiction, you can look to other works like the manga Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, or TV shows and films like Sweet Tooth, Children of Men, Annihilation, or The Girl with All the Gifts. I also liked Sweet Tooth. Speaking of Sweet Tooth, if you enjoyed the Netflix series, I highly recommend you check out the comics because the series on Netflix was more aimed at like all ages, whereas the comics were actually aimed at a more mature audience. Even though I liked the Netflix series quite a lot. W. Forge is asking if anyone has seen 28 Days Later. I have not. I have not yet. All right, so our first chapter is The World of the Blight. I would also say, if you were looking for nonfiction, and this book is older now, this book's probably, 20 years old, maybe. But I can highly recommend The World Without Us, which kind of breaks down what would happen if humanity just up and disappeared. Now, they don't even go into any hypotheses about what happened to us. Maybe we've been transported by aliens to a heaven or whatever. Maybe we've all been wiped out. But it was very, very well done, and it's all scientific, so it's pretty cool. So if you were running something like DeadAirSeasons, you would maybe want to check that out to give you ideas of what an urban location would look like 30 years after humanity is gone, 20 years after humanity's gone. So it looks like we've got some fiction here. Looks like diary entries to get us started. There we go with a bookmark. Marking game time. The MB. Well, that is our game master. I'm wondering what it represents. I must have skipped it. DB says RPG fiction. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Sometimes it's pretty decent. Hey, I don't mind reading, 2-3 pages. That's fine. 2-3 pages here or there in a book. I'm all good with that. I'm fine, especially if you're trying to establish, a group of characters and this is what's going on and so on and so forth. But when you've got like a 200-page book and 35 pages of that is fiction, I'm not super thrilled. Okay, so we have a session, which is the game is a time frame during which the MB and players come together to play DeadAirSeasons. Okay. Variable length depending on the number of factors. So we have scenes. So this is a scene-based game. My assumption is, if you haven't figured this out already, that this is a narrative game. So we have a distinct moment in the story marked by a clearly defined backdrop, time of day, and initial circumstance. These components give the stage used by the characters its shape. We also have a mechanic called an exchange. It will help you deal with scenes that present a conflict between characters and opponents. An exchange is the span of time during which one action is carried out by each of the combatants, such as an attack, a significant movement, using an object, etc. The turn in an exchange is dynamic. The MB divides the participants into two factions with characters and their allies on one side and opponents on the other. After determining, according to what best makes sense within the narrative, which faction moves first, the MB will grant one of its components the right to act. The person who acts, either player or NPC, is the one who makes the most narrative sense in the context of the situation. That could be kind of tricky. W. Forge says 28 years later was an interesting movie, I should say. The ending was strange. Sean Dell says, yeah, that ending was jarring. Yes, of course, obviously no spoilers. Once again, I haven't seen it, but I had heard that some people were kind of scratching their heads, or they were confused by the ending. We have Crises, Interlude, and Seasons of the Blight. Characters in DeadAirSeasons deal with and find solutions to crises, situations that put the community's survival and well-being in danger. It may take several sessions to resolve a crisis. Only the most exciting events in the lives of the characters and communities are highlighted during gameplay, especially when those characters' lives are what is that? Can't read today? Routinely in danger. The time between one crisis and the next is known as the interlude. During this phase, the character and community sheets are updated and the characters reflect on what has transpired. The players work on the protagonist's medium and long-term projects during this interlude, while the MB uses this time to further the opposing forces' agendas, such as the antagonist's goals or the Blight's spread. All right, here's our attributes: body, reaction, presence, mind, determination. And we will have descriptors as well. Just trying to see where we get our scores from. Wow. It's kind of weird. So I'm not seeing where, if we're rolling up dice or if we're allocating scores. Because it says, high body score, low reaction score might be imposing but clumsy. Well, someone with a high presence score but a low mind score might be attractive but shallow. The combinations are endless. And then we've got our descriptors. So character and community descriptors have two parts: a positive one, the upside, which highlights a skill or strength, and a negative one, the downside, which describes a flaw or weak point. I am unflappable and do not panic, but I find it difficult to connect with people. I'm hard to kill, but I only think of myself. Our community is located in the heart of a forest that is home to plenty of food and game, but also conceals numerous dangers. We have gifts, skills or knowledge that enable a particular character to succeed where someone else would fail. So we have community gifts and character gifts later on. Then we have Soma or Sama. It's a special resource unique to characters that it quantifies a character's ability to tap into their inner strength. It can be spent by a player to increase the probability of success on an action with an uncertain outcome when the character is endangered by an opponent or threat. So in order to take advantage of it, the player has to reference a descriptor, either belonging to their character or the community that they're affiliated with, and then it's going to say what spending that represents. So all creatures in the game world have a reserve of wound slots. When a character or NPC sustains a wound, the MB generates a temporary descriptor in order to describe its effects based on the narrative that created it. For example, rib fracture, numb hands, deep slash across the back, sensitivity to loud noises, unable to run, weakened and on the verge of fainting. Scars and character death. So scar is a permanent descriptor. Got a recovering wounds. Opponents and threats. So we have opposition level, 3 to 5 average, 6, 7 is compelling, 8, 9 is a demanding challenge. which would lead me to believe if we are rolling dice, we are rolling 6-sided dice or a 10-sided die. Also tells us the wounds. So standard opponent, 1 or 2 wounds, elite 2 to 4, and nemesis is going to be 4 to 6. Agendas. Rolling a 6-sided die. You're going to have your ambition, resistance, redemption, and secrets. Okay, here we go. We've got our checks. The MB never rolls. The players control every strategic choice and element of chance. Okay, here we go. Uses 3 different types of standard 6-sided dice to resolve checks. A standard die. Failure occurs when a 1 is rolled. Results from 2 to 6 count as additional successes. Advantage dice. Rolling a 1 on these dice counts as a neutral result. Rolls from 2 to 6 count as additional successes. Drawback die. Rolling a 1 or 2 on these dice results in a failure. Rolls from 3 to 6 count as additional successes. In contrast to other systems, DeadAirSeasons requires the player to choose in advance the kind of outcome they hope to obtain. That is, the level of success their character aspires to. The amount of dice to be rolled and or soma to be expended directly depend on the type of outcome chosen. It goes without saying that the likelihood of rolling a 1 and thus a failure increases as more dice are rolled. Aha. Age of Adventure has popped on in to join us. Stray Kismet says, I'm a survivor, but all my scars are on my back. I'm still curious where you're coming up with the dice. I mean, this looks really interesting. Like I said before, I can tell that this is a narrative game. And it even talks about right up front that this is not a role-playing game that's going to be driven by individual characters, that it is the community. So I would guess that you're going to have characters come and go for many different reasons, not just taking a dirt nap. Tessie Trekkie says, Dead Air has the wonderful system. Any one makes the roll a failure, so bigger success runs a bigger risk of fucking it up. Yes, I could tell that. Age of Adventure says, that dice resolution sounds funky. Funky. So we have position and defense check. The position check applies when the character is chosen to take action if during the course of the player's narration, their character acts to obtain something, but may fail due to an opponent or a threat. You make a position check. The defense check applies when the character is being acted upon. If in the course of the MB's narration, circumstances that may hinder or injure the character arise, a defense check is called. Setting up narrated action. The attribute chosen for the check by the MB is crucial because it determines how many base successes the player can expect. Using a higher attribute not only increases the chances of success, but also reduces the need to deplete the Soma pool. It's encouraged for players to narrate the action to favor their preferred attributes. Example, it's likely that a player says, I run up against my opponent and tackle him with all of my weight, trying to unbalance and send him to the ground. They'll get a body position check. I stagger toward the man, muttering to myself. After spitting on the ground and looking him straight in the eye, I smile contemptuously. Today I am not in a good mood, and it is better if he gets out of the way. Would be a good start for a presence check. W. Forge asks, is this a Powered by the Apocalypse game? It is not. It appears to be a dice pool game. So as it mentioned, there's 3 different kinds of dice. 2 of the dice, if you roll a 1, it's a failure. So essentially, and I guess Tessie Trekkie's saying the same thing. If you had 3 dice that you roll, and you roll a 1 on any of those 3 dice, as long as it's not the one where it's a 1, it's a neutral result, then what you're trying to do fails. Anything else is a success, it appears. All right, just kind of flip it on through here. Looks like we've got a good number of examples. So that helps. We've got our character advancement. So it is individual experience points. So as an example, surviving the crisis, 1 XP. 1 XP if the crisis had been resolved with an outcome with a cost or a standard outcome. 2 XP if during the crisis they made progress toward the purpose of their goal gift. Okay, then we have the blights. In the world of DeadAirSeasons, the blight is a dormant cross-species disease that affects not only every man, woman, and child, but all other animals as well. The blight does not behave like a typical infection and forms a true symbiotic relationship with the host, often remaining latent inside the body and not proliferating. There are only 2 known instances where the infection begins to spread: death and contamination. Provided that the individual doesn't exceed the threshold of spores that their body can safely handle, they could easily live their entire life without being affected. Once either of these 2 conditions are met, the blight takes over and begins its transformation of the host organism. This mutation is known as awakening. So once again, it's not exclusive to humans. When the same process happens to an animal, the result is known as a chimera, where awakened consistently attack survivors on sight and seem to respond more strongly to the blight's need to propagate. Yikes. So I guess your characters will become contaminated. But just becoming contaminated doesn't necessarily mean that the end is near. I guess you have to have a certain level of contamination before the awakening takes place. All right, so this looks like they're discussing community here, because that's the star of the show, is the community. So you come up with a concept, and you have cornerstones. Each player proposes from 1 to 3 cornerstones, and then players pick the most interesting cornerstones and formulate the community concept. So like player 1, dense forests, cities devoured by nature, chimeras lurking. Player 2, artificial lake, disused hydroelectric power station. Player 3, old military base, strategic position, compulsory crossing point. Player 4, mountains, isolated, shrouded in clouds. And then you will have community descriptors. So you need 3 of them. Security, resources, and society. To kind of give you an example. More examples of that. This is for characters here. Oh, support NPCs, which I would think would be pretty important here. If you're curious about the production quality of the book, it's nice, solid paper stock here. It does have a stitched binding. As you can see, pretty cool artwork. Yeah, so this looks like this is just a lot of aspects of the community. So now we're into creating the characters. So now we'll probably find out how we figure out these attributes. If we have, a set number of points we can assign. So you come up with a character concept. You have 4 thematic descriptors. So we have the upside and the downsides. So we do have some archetypes. So like leader, charismatic personalities capable of inspiring the masses. A leader addresses their subjects to motivate or direct, not to manipulate them. It gives us some examples. Here are character gifts. So characters get 4 gifts. There we go. Here's our attributes. So if you are looking at being versatile, focused, or a specialist, so this is giving us our attribute profiles here. So it's our body, reaction, mind, presence, and determination. Must have missed determination. I was talking about it before. I thought there were 4. I guess there are 5. So if you want to be a versatile character, that's going to be your breakdown. 4, 3, 3, 3, 2. Okay. Each character can sustain 3 wounds. Certain gifts can change that value. Get equipment, character gifts. So we have archetype gifts. So if you're an athlete, cross-country runner, quick as the wind, a fighter, martial arts, criminal, free spirits, expert, first aid, explorer, expert hunter, leader, inflame the hearts. Yeah, I'm just sharing examples. There's a few. It's like there's 4 or 5 for each. The manipulator, mind games. The savant, engineer. Surgeon is another one. We got generic gifts. I think you can also take gifts outside of your archetype as well. Goal gifts, blight gifts, sap of the earth. Your body has the ability to produce small roots that can penetrate the soil and provide you with nutrition you require. That's kind of wild. Looks like each of these has an upgrade too. Well, maybe not. Maybe just these blight gifts have upgrades. Robert Santon says, the book looks nice. I get to read it, but I don't know if I'd ever play it. Yeah. All depends. I mean, the reality is you're going to have a certain type of group who's going to play this. And we talk about this all the time with different games. As Sarah D is rocking on out. Thank you, Sarah, for hanging with us. See you next week. But we talk about this all the time. You've got certain players. So if you have a group of players and you're running a game and your players would sit there all night long just playing one combat encounter after another, well, that's not going to be the group that's going to be right for this. Right? Just like if you've got a group who everybody wants to, tell a story and they're looking to create some big epic tale without playing 75 sessions to piece it all together. Well, then you're not going to sit down and run Dungeons and Dragons for them. I mean, it's just not going to happen. All right. So this looks like this is like creating the world. This utilizes a lot of keywords, essentially. So here are some of our awakened. I guess we'll get into some chimeras. Well, it's showing us the different classes of them. There we go. Here's our chimeras. Crimson Wolf, Flesh Bees, opponents and threats. I'll tell you one thing, though. You could probably get a lot of ideas for a role-playing game that's kind of built like The Last of Us or Station 11, even if you were looking to run different mechanics. I can guarantee you, just looking through this would be a treasure trove of ideas. So this looks like we're into the Game Master section, or the MB section. Talking about setting up the campaign themes, one step at a time. A season should not be meticulously planned. Instead, it's preferable to begin with a crisis and then proceed from there. The initial community crisis should allow players to become acquainted with the game system and the world surrounding the community. Spending the appropriate amount of time establishing the community, NPCs, and relationships within the region will be critical later on when events involving the characters become more hectic and dangerous. J-Man says, some of these games are positioned more like a Netflix series where your group has binge watched. Also, a lot of times games like this are not necessarily designed to be long, ongoing affairs that maybe you're looking at 10 sessions, sometimes not even that much. Now, I'm not saying that you couldn't run a big, long campaign with this, but it does seem as though the premise is that, almost like, spoiler alert, if you have not seen Sweet Tooth, or if you've not seen the end of Sweet Tooth, cover your ears. La, 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 la. But it does strike me that humanity is doomed. So the end is nigh. Maybe it's not right at the end of a DeadAirSeasons campaign, but tain't nobody getting out alive, essentially. So Chris Leonard has popped on into chat. Sorry they're late. What role-playing game is this for? Chris, you're going to have to watch. We're not doing a recap here. Just have to go back and check it out, because it is a role-playing game. It is not a supplement for something else. Straight Kismet says games like this go amazing with Google Maps. Chris Leonard's like, no. W. Forge says, I'm a leaf on the wind. Then I roll a 1. Womp, womp, womp. All right. So that is a peek inside DeadAirSeasons from the World Anvil Publishing. Once again, this hardcover carries an MSRP of $66. If you want to grab just the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $24.99. I will put the link to both the World Anvil as well as DeadAirSeasons in PDF on DriveThruRPG down in the show notes. All right. So long show, extra large show tonight. That's okay. It's our last show of the month anyway. Last show of the week. So hopefully people had some fun. Chris Lenren points out that they finally bought the core rulebook for Call of Cthulhu. Says, why do I need to get the other hardcover as well? You don't necessarily have to get it. This edition of Call of Cthulhu, funny enough, when the new edition of Call of Cthulhu came out, there was a single core rulebook. And then, I don't even know if it made it into print because I didn't have a copy of it. I did have a copy of the PDF though. And suddenly it was like, okay, now there's an investigator's book and a keeper's book. I was like, okay. But Chaosium Inc. has kind of adopted what some other companies have done, where the Game Master's Guide, or in this case, the Keeper's Guide, is not mandatory. You don't have to have it. It is not the Dungeon Master's Guide of Call of Cthulhu. It is an optional book, but I will say it is a very, very useful optional book. Chris Lundgren says, it's the Player's Investigator's book. Someone in the Facebook group told me that I have to have it to play as well. Yeah, you have to have the Investigator's book. That is the core rule book. The Keeper's Guide, you do not have to have. Same thing we saw with Tales of the Valiant and other games too. So Tales of the Valiant, you got the Player's Guide, you got the Monster Vault. Those are your two essentially must-haves. Game Master's Guide, all optional. It's got a lot of additional material to it, don't get me wrong, but you don't need to have it in order to run the game. But as far as Call of Cthulhu goes, the Investigator's Handbook, yes, you've got to have it. Chris Lengren bought the Keeper's Guide. It's not the core rule book. Not the core rule book. So that's why you're sitting there reading it going, I don't get this. How do I run this game? Where are the rules to the game? They're in the Investigator's Guide. DB says, really, you can't play the game without the Keeper's Guide? I don't think so anyway. Yeah, you can. You can play it without the Keeper's Guide. Like I said, Keeper's Guide is optional material. So W4 says, yeah, but we're dealing with role-playing game players. Who's going to buy a book 1 without buying book 2 as well? Well, if you are a game master, yes, that is normally how things work. It's like, oh, well, like we were talking about earlier, the new edition of the Laundry role-playing game. It's 4 books. So one of them is the player's book. The other is the game master's book. I don't know if you can use one without having the other. I'm going to take a guess, probably not. But then a third book is, it seems like it's more setting material and some adventures, which are new. And then the fourth book are adventures that were previously published that are revised and updated for this new edition. So out of the 4 books, you might need to have 2 of them. I know you need to have 1 at least, right? But as a game master, you're probably going to go pick up all 4. Stray Kismet points out, yes, thank you. I will probably find out the results of the echogram tomorrow. That's what the technician said, but I don't know. I would think by the time we get together for next week's show on Tuesday, I will have found out. So fingers crossed. All right. That's it for this time out. If you are watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, a bigger thank you, because, of course, not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company as I'm going through the news or flipping through a book or what have you. But, of course, I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out to watch any of the over 2,200 videos that are here on the channel. Much appreciated. On Tuesday's show, we're going to kick off Monte Cook Games Month by diving on into the Magnus archives from the aforementioned Monte Cook Games. Pretty hefty tome here. And I got to point out, I have never listened to the podcast that this is based on, so it's going to all be new to me. So very nice. Looking forward to that. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings, right here on YouTube, it'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my recent review of Call of Cthulhu, The Sutra of Pale Leaves, Twin Suns Rising from Chaosium Inc. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Have a great rest of the week and weekend. I will be back next month, so I hope I get to see you then. Of course, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you kindly for watching. And as always, I certainly hope every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.